Apart from painting me as a man of evil intent, Magda felt the need to accuse me still further with all kinds of wrongdoing, and constantly preaching that if a man is not in the truth, he cannot follow the righteous path of Jehovah, and therefore he is of the world. According to Bible teachings, one cannot serve two masters. One can either serve God or the devil. This was apparently the reason why the children had to be kept away from associating with their father, the great unbeliever. Remember also that everybody belonging to the world, therefore worshipping the devil, could tell many lies. But those who adhered to the divine teachings always told the truth, and that was where their mother supposedly belonged. She was teaching the children what she often repeated, that she could only speak the truth. And if somebody had told her a lie as true, when she spoke of it to someone else, she could not be blamed. But if people are able to think, would they ever talk about something like that? Would they not at least analyze what was said before talking about it as the truth? Was she indeed always telling the truth? Were the witnesses really telling the truth? She did unprecedented harm by hammering into the children's minds that their father was a bad person, and one could only expect all kinds of ugly things from him. They grew up with that belief and attitude. After spending some time only with the supposedly righteous witnesses, and not much with their forever complaining mother, their attitude towards me, after the excess with her, spoke volumes about what they were subjected to. Indeed, their behavior declared more than what I wanted to know. As time went on, this proved to be an ongoing experience. However, caring and looking after their welfare, health, and education was one of the greatest joys a parent could wish for. My desire was to help them achieve higher education and make beautiful waves on the stage of life. I wanted them to have a wonderful, healthy, and happy future. What happened between their mother and me did not need to interfere with their lives. Quite frankly, I wished that the family lived in unity, for it would be so much healthier under normal circumstances, but the circumstances were far from normal. Surprisingly, when she decided to move closer to where we lived, it made things a lot easier. I could now take the girls to their mothers at ease, for it was only a few short minutes away. When she decided to come over with Claude, it was equally easy for her. She living in Spray Street, and the boy attending the same school as his sister's was going to be, somewhat very interesting. However, Magda watched over him like a hawk in case I might talk to him after school. In fact, it was so unusual to see other people picking Claude up from the school grounds on a daily basis. Obviously, she wanted to keep him away from me at all times. One day after school, Claude rushed to me, very excited, wanting to talk to his daddy, but a woman approached me, saying she did not want foreigners talking to the boy. Surprised, I asked her if the child was hers. At first she said, yes. That was a first-class lie. But soon after, discovering that Claude was hugging and calling me Dad, she said she was picking the child up for her friend. Later I learned that she was a Jehovah's Witness and good friends with Magda from the local Kingdom Hall. I was surprised because I believed all witnesses were supposed to tell only the truth. That was very sad. When this happened again, I told the woman to walk with me to Claude's mother's address. She was shocked and told me it was illegal. I said to her, "To hell with it. He is also my child, and it is my access, and I am taking the boy to his mother." When we were at the door, Magda was in shock, obviously wanting to tell me that her faithful sister was going to collect the boy from school. I told her that maybe I should take him back to the school for her beloved sister to bring him to her, and asked why she could not do so for herself, but she could not answer me. It was so obvious that she did not want to have anything to do with an alleged devil worshipper, for otherwise she would attract the wrath of Jehovah's Witnesses and be disfellowshipped. "Well," she said, while avoiding eye contact, "now we have to cut your next access time a little short by the few minutes you spent with him." I answered, "Next time I bring the girls you can have a little extra time until I come back, for I do not see any reason to cut the time you spent with them short because of a few mere minutes." On weekends, I took the girls to her place and picked Claude up, and on return I took him back and picked the girls up. Other weekends, she brought Claude with her and picked the girls up. However, she was making absolutely sure that the boy did not spend very much time with his dad. She was trying to follow her own rules to make it virtually impossible for me to spend any quality time with him. This arrangement continued a while and became habitual. Her facial expressions declared that she would rather prefer me to have absolutely no access to the child. She would probably prefer her brothers to have very special access to the boy, and it appeared as if she did not want me to discover things practiced by the witnesses. The specialized indoctrinations the children were subjected to did not help the situation. After telling everything on an as-is basis, one might think as if I was portraying Magda as she never was, but in all honesty, what has been said so far is the absolute truth. It was never my desire to paint her or anybody else evil. I have left the honors to her in portraying me as everything nasty and excusing it as being the righteousness of God. When their mother picked the girls up, she had to leave young Claude with me. This gave me a little chance to get to know him better after such a long separation we endured. He was so excited and very happy to spend some time with his daddy. My assessment of the child was that he was growing up in complete fear and mistrust of the world around him. For a child who was very capable of learning mathematics at an earlier age, or gained the ability to draw and paint, expressing his inner self and even his dreams was denied under the dictates of the witnesses. He was encouraged to think only of the Bible stories, to preach the Word of God while going house to house, and never associate with any other children who belonged to worldly parents. Claude was missing a lot in his childhood, but at least by having a chance to spend time with his dad, he was able to discover the other side of life, becoming able to relate to other children of his own age group, and hopefully, through interaction with others like himself, he could also enjoy some sunshine. I endeavored to teach him healthier eating habits, and believe his mother was doing the same. Interestingly, his mother would prefer to allow him to see me only on a fortnightly basis, believing the lesser access I had to my son, the better it would be in case I might undermine her teachings. I felt that it was hoped I would not discover some hidden truths about her faithful associates. As she often confirmed, if I did not see the child at all, she would be so much happier. During the very first access period, when I asked him if he wanted to watch television, he was extremely fearful, and when I asked him why, he told me he did not want to upset his mommy, for she would ask him if he did something wrong, forcing him to tell things to please her. Alas, Magda preferred not to believe, and punished him anyway. He kept saying, "If I watch television, Jehovah God will punish me. Mommy told me it was sin, or something." I am so happy to have discreetly recorded our conversations. I explained that probably his mother did not want him to see bad things people did to each other, but that she would not mind the fun things for children. They did not have any television at home, and the boy was happy to watch it when at my place from then on. His favorite program was The Muppet Show. On one occasion he told me, But I will not tell Mom anything." I asked him why he was not going to tell his mom anything, and he answered me, saying, "She hits me if I say we watch television." I asked, "Are you sure?" He was literally trembling with fear, but managed softly to utter, "I think God was asking her to hurt me." I could not understand the reasoning behind such treatment, and felt the urgency to change the subject. One could readily understand why the girls preferred to stay with me rather than with their mother. No child wants to live in a very serious adult world with so many restrictions. Besides, such disciplining of children is most undesirable, for we have seen the results of restrictive parenthood. It is devastatingly tragic. Often I took him to food outlets such as ice cream parlors, for he liked them, not because I only wanted him to consume ice creams for food, but because he really enjoyed them. And sometimes we went to light-hearted movies in the city. I always made sure the food I prepared was likable to him, and he was surprised that his dad never punished him if he did not like something. Certainly, he was never forced to eat the old food first, before touching the freshly cooked meal, when in my presence. I was determined that the child would at least have complete freedom away from the daily restrictions he was subjected to. This also gave me a glimpse of the restrictions the girls had experienced before their choice of staying with me. The thought of it alone was very sad. Another time I took him on an historic train ride on Puffin Billy, and gave him a chance to drive the train with me and other friends. By putting his hands on the controls, he was thrilled and excited. Seeing a child so happy and excited has always been my greatest joy and pleasure. In the morning, while having his favorite breakfast without worrying about praying, he asked, "Dad, will God be angry with me?" I asked why God should be angry with him. "Because Mom says I must not forget to pray to God before eating." I did not know how best to react to this childish plea, but Claude continued, "Oh, I don't know what to say." I told him he did not need to worry about praying when he was with Dad. He reacted with, "Really? Really?" and asked further, "But you're not going to hit me with the spoon?" I told him I would never do something like that, and he gave me a hug. I could not contain my tears while trying to hide them from him. The spoon he referred to was the wooden spoon his mother used when disciplining the children. Later that morning, noticing a blue-green coloring on his upper leg, I asked him if he had fallen down, but he told me Mommy had broken a spoon on him. when he told me that his mother always hit him on the same spot, I understood that she did so in order to inflict the boy with maximum pain, so that he never forgot his mistakes, hoping the lesson was learnt. Once again, one could see how true it is that when somebody points a finger at another, they are pointing all the other fingers at themselves. The child was strictly advised not to tell anything to his father, who was apparently too thick to understand the complexities of discipline. However, whenever I attempted to relay the information to this effect to the authorities, I was never taken seriously. Maybe it was because of being a mere male, and it might have been due to my ethnicity. I was even advised to be patient, and everything would become good again. As time went by, I tried to do everything possible to be a good father and genuine friend to the children, while learning in the process how to become a mother. I did not know some of the intricacies of becoming a mother, but hope I had a good go at it. Under the circumstances, I neglected many of my own interests, just to spend more time in helping my children with their interests and education. As I said, their physical and mental health was of paramount importance, their good morals and loving natures becoming more evident, but I did not seek praise from anybody. Even if later they did not truly appreciate what I did, so that they lacked nothing in their lives, it would not be of concern. But being human, I knew I could do a lot of things far better. However, no matter how keen I was to look after my physical health, I could not ignore some of the genetic factors. I was experiencing minor health concerns, but was determined to overcome every challenge. In fact, my general practitioner told me a lot of things after a series of medical tests that could only be attributed to my genetic background and great stress I was under. At that stage, I never told anything to my children, for I did not want them to share my pain, only my joys, because they were my beloved children. I experienced incredibly emotional pain, overpowering my entire being, the like of which I never had before. I was also having serious infections, which worried me a lot concerning my plumbing system, making it very hard to pass water. Maybe those negative emotions were lowering my immune system. From time to time, a total blockage in that part of the body put me in a state of absolute agony, forcing me to drag myself to the hospital for immediate emergency treatment. Soon everything was normalized. During those days, nighttime particularly was very difficult, forcing me to get up often to rush to the restroom in desperate haste. Still, under no circumstances did I want my children to know anything about my personal problems, and it went on for a considerable time like that. However, I made sure that they were never neglected. My aim was always for them to have a beautiful and successful future. I wanted their self-expressions to be of a high standard and desire to improve themselves in every wholesome way possible. I have already made mention about the following segment briefly, and would like to tell you a little more. Since Birgit was showing great interest in singing and had a very pleasant and beautiful voice at a very young age, and Annette was keenly interested in theatrics and dance, following recommendations from many friends, I contemplated that subjecting them to a course would be a good thing. A while ago I had met Johnny Young, although we were not always in touch, but I discovered he had such an establishment in Richmond, the young performers taking part in his weekly television program called Young Talent Time were trained there. When they were advertising for new enrollments, I applied for the girls to have an additional fun-filled activity. I thought it could lead to greater things for them, although the witnesses, including Magda, would oppose every activity in regard to the television industry and materialism. When I spoke to the girls about this issue, they were very excited about the prospect. I would never force them into something they did not want to do. But after the first class, they told me how they felt about it and were happy to continue. Even if it did not become a career, it would still provide them with self-confidence. For now, it was going to give them some colorful weekend activity and an excuse to take us out regularly. They were evidently enjoying the dancing and singing. I took them to the Channel 10 network studios in Nunawading, where the programs was recorded live and aired the next day at weekends. However, I was unsure what their faithful mother encouraged them to do. The girls asked her to come with us to the studios or to where they were practicing. She was understandably very reluctant at first, but after consulting her faithful brothers, she came along to small parties organized at Television House, the Young Talent Time School, and met the children performing in that program. She also came to the recordings of the program and, according to Birgit, was very impressed. However, her Jehovah's Witness brothers and sisters continued with their seemingly God-inspired activities against any endeavor of the artistic kind involving the television industry. Nor would she speak to me, for she had to avoid sinning against the Spirit. Whenever they had access to the girls, if you notice I use the term they, it is because Magda preferred to subject them to the utterly cultist ideals which the witnesses continually preached and hammered increasingly into them that their interest in arts, the way they were attracted to, was a very negative thing, for Jehovah would never approve. It appeared that the witnesses had a very intimate relationship with that God, to know all about his characteristics. But since they are not inspired of God, as they themselves admit, how can it be possible? After a long while, the girls began to show signs of unwillingness to continue, and I was not going to force them to participate in something they did not want to do any more. They were clearly taking note of godly advice. First, Annette decided not to keep going. Probably she was becoming a little impatient. A little later, Birgit began to complain about some children teasing her and wanted to do other things instead, such as learning to play the violin. I went along with it and was content with her decision. However, the witness's influence, courtesy of Magda, was abundantly obvious. There were times when people of ethnic or Turkish background invited me to their homes to visit them with my daughters, for they had seen them perform and were religiously watching the programs. Many of them told me that they would love to meet the girls in person. I was a very proud father, and they were telling me how talented my daughters were. We became friends with them, and they often invited us to their parties and barbecues during their special celebrations. When I read Sam Walton's words, I was impressed with the wisdom they contained. Celebrate your success and find humor in your failures. Don't take yourself so seriously. Loosen up, and everyone around you will loosen up. Have fun, and always show enthusiasm. When all else fails, put on a costume and sing a silly song. When my health improved a little, I was happy, for I was able to take my girls out a lot easier. I needed to disguise my physical discomfort, for their fun and joy was more important. They were my world. I have known despair and sadness, therefore I have always tried to help those in need. One such person was Reg Whittaker, a mature Yorkshireman, with interesting hobbies like singing opera and choir, research into the human mind, and collecting classical music records. He was trained in basso arias, but after divorce from his wife, for reasons I was not interested to know, he was living like men on the streets, in a totally miserable state. He was housed in a shared dwelling with a few other single pensioners in socially unacceptable conditions. The shared kitchen, for example, had walls sticky with fat from never being cleaned. One could see that this residence was not going to help him express himself as any normal human being, but rather assist him to waste away. I first met him after one of my visits to the Theosophical Society, and after walking with him to where he was housed, near South Yarra, seeing the state of his dwelling, I asked if he would like to live independently and improve his circumstances. He was very apprehensive at first, thinking that he could not afford such private accommodation, but after a few enquiries, he discovered that it would give him a new start in life, helping him live elsewhere happily. At that time, a flat became available for him to move into in my neighborhood. I used my influence while employed by the state government and Melbourne City Council. When I began working with them, John Kerner was Premier. When my position was scrapped due to changes to the political system after the elections, it forced me to remain only with my other occupation as a lecturer, which provided more time for me to spend with my children. I was happy to have helped Reg with his new accommodation, and he started making new friends, while his other friends, such as a Baptist minister and Hispanic friend Martin, who later passed on with liver-related complications, often visited him. He soon became friends with John, who was also an Englishman and lover of cats.